I think this is a really big topic that operators must know about. And I think a lot of people don't know about all of the insurance requirements and what that means. So can you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, I'll start with one example, and I think this is a great topic to kind of drill down on. But I had a client engage with us the day after they fell victim to a burglary, and throughout the night, 5 different times, armed group of men's and not little guns either, but really heavily armed dudes came back to this facility, multiple times, and they sustained significant loss, well over 6 figures, well over. And so then the insurance claim process begins. The very next day, they had called us and engaged with us, and they became our client the day after they were a victim of a burglary. And one of the first things we did was an insurance policy review, because we're going to need to, make additions to some of the equipment. We're going to need to make some repairs and really sort of move forward so we can get back operational. And it was learned really quickly that some of the equipment, a door specifically that they had installed, did not meet the insurance requirements of that specific policy. So, in the fine print, and these policies, I don't write them, so I don't know what the design is behind it, but this information is all over the place. And these documents can be, well over 150 pages easy.
Wow.
And so they're really, really lengthy. And that's just looking at, for an example, property insurance. But there's very specific requirements around safes, locks, doors, locking mechanisms behind doors, staff training. There's a lot of exclusions. And so, it's really important for operators just to take this away. And that's to know that your insurance policy is extremely important when it comes time to collect on a claim. And you can only collect on a claim if you meet all the requirements of that policy. And so for folks that are going through the licensing process now, if you're not looking at your insurance policy, or your, installation crew, your general contractor is not talking about the insurance policy and some of the requirements that it may contain, definitely find somebody that knows what they're talking about. Because, if you're spending all this money on a build out, and you're spending money on a security system or a security solution, one, to meet the requirements, but two, to protect your people and your assets, you want to put your head down at night knowing that should an incident or a loss occur, that you're going to be made whole at the end of the day, because you're paying this premium monthly. And so it's really important to understand that those things are out there. It's not just the safes, it's doors, it's windows, it's locks. It could be staff training, third-party guard training. Every policy is different, and there's different carriers out there. But as the industry evolves, more insurance carriers come into the space, right? And so that is good because it provides more options, but it muddies the water a little bit in that you really need to drill down on this stuff and understand it, and just know that it's out there, so that you don't, unfortunately, like these folks are going to find out that their claim is going to go to zero. At best, maybe pennies on the dollar, but, they're not going to see, more than a couple grand, to be honest with you. And that's just extremely unfortunate. So then what we did, right, was we had a decision to make. Do you want to continue to pay your policy knowing that you're not going to be made whole? Well, obviously they're not going to not pay. So they wanted to make improvements that, respected the policy, so that if this were to happen again, and we know these caravan burglaries and robberies are increasing in nature and becoming increasingly violent, that they can be made whole in the future.
Yeah. And because our brain always needs to compare to something, are you able to disclose like how much this cost them? And like the improvements that they did make, like what did this new equipment cost them?
Sure. I mean, we looked at very specific door solutions that needed to be signed off by the insurance company. We pushed for them to give us a verbal, not a verbal, but something in writing. They were very quick to say, yes, it was all good. But dealing with insurance, dealing with law enforcement, dealing with regulators, you want to constantly keep a paper trail. You want to have, well documented, records of who you talk to, when and why and how, because should they sustain a loss in the future, right? And nobody can, some people maybe, some guard firms maybe want to say we can guarantee nothing will happen to your space if you engage with us, but that's just not true. Nobody can predict the future.
Over promising, under delivering.
Exactly. So, we made improvements that respected the insurance policy. We installed door solutions and some other things that were more expensive than original equipment. I think one of the door solutions was upwards close to right around $15,000, but it had
Wow.
to meet various requirements. It had to be ADA compliant, fire compliant, egress compliant. It had to support the right cycle use. So door is just not a door. This particular door gets used all the time, and so you have to put in equipment that can support that. Versus an emergency exit door that's rarely going to get used, but needs to be meet other requirements. That solution is much cheaper than something that we had to implement. But again, it had to be very specific to this policy, and therefore there wasn't a lot of options out there. We had to find the right one that supported and worked best for this particular facility.
Wow. Okay. And so, of course, a very in-depth policy review with equipment review and reviewing your on-site equipment as well. All of that is tied into a proactive, compliant business.